Tom Sharonis. We did a pilot, Insecurity, that Peter Boner's directed, actually. Uh, and he knew me from the pilot, from that pilot, and a connection of when he was doing Cotter. Um, Wanted to make a change in the art department. The first four episodes were done by David Sakharov. And that whole history of Seinfeld was amazing because it was created by what's his name, Ludwin. He was a VP of variety specials and late night television. So the comedy department had nothing to do with Seinfeld, and I think it was the worst testing pilot that they've ever done. So it was amazing, and it was through Rick's influence that they kept the show, and the comedy department was out of the picture. So that's one reason why I got a second chance. And that's when Sharonis. I think he did. I think he worked on the first four. I'm not sure, but when he set up the second season was only 13 shows. He moved the show to CBS Studio Center. I had my office there. He brought Jerry down to my office, introduced us, and through that connection, they hired me. Jerry liked me, so they hired me then. We first started out on stage 19. It started out kind of slow. I made a couple of changes to the permanent set. His apartment was basically designed by David through stock scenery that they had because it was done for a nickel. And one of the things I wanted to do was change Jerry's apartment when I got the job. And they said no, they liked the way it worked. The upstage door is always a problem in sitcoms because when you have an upstage door, that means the principal, the other people had to turn upstage to see an entrance. But it worked out that our set was wide enough, and the upstage door was at an angle, so you could get people's reaction. You can get two eyes from the side cameras, so that worked out well. I did change the colors. I updated it to match stock footage. Made some changes there. Made some changes in Monk's Diner. Put the foreground tables in, which they used a lot. So that was the basic set, and that stayed out throughout the entire series. It was very interesting because the way Tom set up the show, he hired a great staff, great production team, and basically let everybody do their own job, let them do their job. He told Larry and Jerry, he said, don't worry about it. You just write the show, write whatever you want. We'll take care of it. And I think that's one of the major successes of Seinfeld is that Jerry and Larry concentrated on writing. They had no production experience, which was great because they didn't interfere, didn't micromanage. Maybe the first few things I designed from a script. After that, it was a 20-minute conversation with the writers, looking at the cards on the board. They would run down the show with me, which was great fun. Anyway, it was like it was very funny just having them explain what the show was. I would take my notes, find out what sets they needed, how many entrances and exits there were, how many people were there in the scene. I would go away, design the sets, come back, show Sharonis what I had in mind, because he was getting information the same way I was. And then I would go to Larry and Jerry and show them what I had in mind. Of course, they had no idea what they were looking at that time, and eventually Larry just said to me, Tom, we trust you, at that point. And of course, the longer they went, the more they learned and the more input they had in the shows, so. But the big success was Tom telling the network that, if we're going to do a show about Coke, we're going to see Coke. We're going to, maybe next time we'll do Pepsi. It was a show about nothing. And one of the successes of the show, the Junior Mint, Snapple. They mentioned product all the time, which was common to everybody. So to genericize everything, to make generic products would be absurd in that situation. The cast, you couldn't get a better cast than what I mean, it was perfect. The casting for character actors were phenomenal. I mean, I can't think of another show that the casting was so great. In every role. George's parents. I mean, it's incredible. And they were all super people. Jason, sweetheart, Jason Alexander, Michael, the hardest working actor I've ever worked with, constantly talking to himself, rehearsing. He was always in preparation, I can't think of a time where I just saw him sitting down, just having a cup of coffee, not doing anything. Julie was amazing too, so everybody was just incredible cast. And
what about Jerry himself?
Terrific guy. I consider he was a kid from Long Island, that made it made it big. Very unpretentious, I learned to mix my cereals together when I had breakfast, as that's what Jerry did. I mean, he had a tremendous amount of cereal for some reason, and he would mix them, and I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. I've done that ever since. Seinfeld, the sets were in the background. They were not meant to be part of, they were not meant to be a character. They were to represent a location, I mean, the characters really stood out, I think, I have a thing about sets being too nice or taking too much control over what's going on, especially with a small screen. If there's too much going on, the actors get lost, and you're not paying attention on what you should be paying attention to.